This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so what we've been discussing about is that we started off with something like what is, let's say, an agile team. This is where we started. Okay. This is where we started. We said you have a business team, you have a product owner, you have, let's say, something like a scrum master who will assign the tasks and etc. And yesterday we said, okay, fine. I mean, day before yesterday we said what is, let's say, SCM, like distributed and decentral. I mean, distributed and a centralized version control mechanism. And we started to use something known as Git yesterday. And we said we had a branching and a merging strategy. We said initially there's a main branch, you're not using a main branch. So in order to protect your main branch, what do you need to implement? Branch policies. So you're putting something known as a branch policies out here. And branch policies, you have different conditions. Some of the conditions are something like required minimum number of users or required minimum number of reviewers for a PR to get approved. And then we said limit resolve common resolution should be there. And then we said check for linked work items. And we said what is a work item, what is a board, what is an Azure board, and etc. And we said how the developer commits the code inside it and how basically all this process again begins. Okay, let's try doing one today. Like, let's start with something like the branching. Let's follow the branching strategy. Let's make sure we are following it up close very tight. So let's do one thing. Now, firstly, as someone suggested yesterday, I'll go ahead and add a user. Okay, I'll just go ahead and add a user out here, and let's assign that user a contributor access. And let's also log in using that particular user ID. And I only want to give that particular user an access to the 8 a.m. project, not all the projects, because like I have multiple clients, I'm dealing with multiple clients in the same organization. So I want to only give access to this particular project out here. So let's open up my Excel sheet. Let's see if I have an email ID here. Let's say top discovered. Let's give me 1 second so that I'll take an ID and I just have a dummy IDs and etc. Not this. Let's see. So the second one, let's say storage is yes. So I use these IDs earlier, right? So to assign RBACs and etc. I'll use the same IDs to go ahead and let's say assign this particular permissions and all. So I'm using this particular Gmail ID which is called RBAC contributor and etc. I'll come down to the Azure portal. Sorry, I'll come to the DevOps portal and I'm going into the organization settings. I'm going into the organization settings and I'm saying okay, fine, users, and I'll say add users. In here I'm just giving the name of the user out here which is called RBAC contributor, and I'll say add user. This is the only user that I'm adding. You can add multiple users out here. You can have a multiple user, you can add a group. And here I'm saying add to projects, and I'm specifying one particular project which is called 8 a.m. project. And I'm saying okay, fine, I'm adding this particular user as a contributor only, not an administrator. And I'll say add. It's saying I'm running a task and etc. Meaning it's just adding a user out here. Here it's saying okay, fine, I'm adding the user. It'll take a minute to go ahead and add the user. So firstly, it will send out an invitation just like we did, and then it will go ahead and add the user out here. Back contributor is added here. Let's do one thing. I'll log in as this user right now. So let's open up my Gmail account. And I should have gotten an email telling that okay, fine, please go ahead and access this out. Do you now see I have an email from Azure DevOps telling me that you know what, you are invited to this particular organization. I'll say join now. It's now saying sign into your account. I'll again put that account here and I'll say next. I'll enter a password. And now it's taking me to that particular Azure DevOps account. It says your name and etc. I'll say contributor. Here in the place of contributor, you'll actually give an actual name. Like whenever a user logins, right? The first time. This is the first time I've joined the project. My project administrator has sent across an email to my Outlook, and I'm joining the organization right now. I'll give my email and etc. And I'll say okay, fine, continue. And let's give it a second. It'll load some projects out here. Let's do a refresh. And earlier I was also added, like, to give a demo, I added myself to this particular project known as my class repo. And now I went ahead and added myself to what? 8am project. So what I'll do right now is now where my development starts. Now let's imagine that I am a developer and right now I am working on something like a repository. Now the DevOps engineer will create me the repos, putting something known as branch policies on top of the repository. So what I'll do right now is that I'll create a new repository. I'll say new, and let's say we are developing an application called ASP.NET. So I'll say ASP.NET repo, something a name out here to the repository, and I've created the repository out here. And by default, no one should be allowed to commit to what? The main branch. You are not allowed to commit to the main branch as a developer. So I am making sure to log the branch. And I'm saying, okay, fine, please log this branch. Sorry, not log, unlog. Let's say apply branch policies. I'm saying branch policies, and I'm protecting my branch out here. Saying required number of reviews are what? 1. Apart from, now I won't check this option called allow requester to approve their own change. I don't do that, because if I am requesting for a PR, I shouldn't be the approver, because it'll again become easy, right? I can bypass things out. Then I'll say okay, fine, check for link work items also. Then I'll say okay, fine, check for comment resolutions also. These are the couple of things I'm checking whenever I want to commit to the main branch. Now, as yesterday we discussed, we said developers are not going to work on the main branch directly. Rather, they are going to, according to, let's say, the procedure, from the main branch, they will pull, or let's say we need to give them something known as what? A develop branch. Let's do that. Let's say this is version 1. So I'll say new branch again. I'll say new branch. I'll say this is develop v1.0. I'm developing version 1.0. And I'm saying based out of main branch. And I'm creating something for the developer right now. Then I also said that developers should not be able to commit to this again. No direct commits on the develop branch, because I'm using my develop branch as what? As my source branch for all the development. So no direct commits here. That's the reason I will put what? A branch policy here also. I'll say branch policies. And I can say, okay, fine, required minimum number of reviews is what? 1. For link work items, check for comment resolutions. And just coming down, I'll automatically add reviewers. Meaning I will add that particular ID known as RBAC, something like this, right? Contributor. I'll add this particular person. Let's imagine that he is my lead. I'll add this person as an automatic reviewer. Whenever something comes up, this person is required to review it. And I'll say allow requesters to approve their own change. I'll just take this off. Okay. So I am adding an automatic reviewer out here. You can also do that. If you have a group, you can also add a group as an automatic reviewer. Okay. Guys, fair enough until this point? Any questions still here? Any confusion still here? So my develop branch is also protected. My develop 1.0 branch is also what? Protected. I cannot do a direct commit on top of it. So what I will do right now is that I will clone this develop branch into my local. I'll firstly do what? A clone out here, and I'll say clone in what? VS Code. I'll say open Visual Studio. I'll say open, and I'll just select a repository out here. Just come down, just select a repository, select file, and this is now cloning, and I'll say open. I'm opening this workspace right now in my local. Now I'm a developer. Until now I was a DevOps engineer creating all these branches. Now let's imagine that I'm a developer right now, and this is the repository in my local machine. This is where I have the repository. Let's go back here, ASP.NET, and I have, let's say, a git, a .git, and a readme file. This .git will be used, just a second, this .git will be used to track the changes locally. Yes. Did you install Git? So maybe view hide items, right? So hidden items. If I don't do a hidden item, even I won't see the .git. Since to explain, I said hidden items also. The view should be different. It's a hidden item, that's it. So just do a view and hidden item, you will be able to see this Git folder. So it's like, running in the backend. Fine. So I have the readme.file here. Now as a developer, I am just not looking to change the lines here. I just not want to come here, change a line. I don't want to do this. Rather, I want to make sure to push the code that I have written, an ASP.NET code or whatever it is, to push the code into what? The Azure repository. So what I'll be doing right now is, let me create a new code. I'll say Visual Studio. I'll open up my Visual Studio, and I'm creating a ASP.NET application, ASP.NET core application. Now it says, okay, fine, Visual Studio is open. Now I'll say, okay, fine, create a new project. And once the template loads, then I can go ahead and select one of the templates out here. So I have ASP.NET Core Web App. I also have an ARM template, but ARM template is not something that I'm looking on to create right now. And I also have what? ASP.NET Full Framework. So two things out here, guys. .NET Core and Full Framework. We'll see what is the difference between those two and everything. I am now selecting .NET Full Framework. Okay. I'm selecting this template and I'll say, okay, fine, next. I'll say this is .NET Full Framework application, something like this. And it now asks me that what do you want to create out of it. I'll just select MVC, Model View Controller. This is the third option. I'll just select this out. Now, do we do this? No, this is a developer's work. So that's the reason I said that I'm a developer right now. This is a developer who will write this code, develop this code, and etc. This is not your business. But for our demo, we are just creating a sample code like we used to do in Visual Studio and etc. We used to create a sample code out here. So earlier what we did, we created a sample code and we did a right click and we said build to convert the code into what? A DLL. And then we did a publish. So I'm not doing anything right now like this. I am telling all these developmental activities should be now done using DevOps practice. I don't want my developers to build and deploy it from their local machine, because that is not the right way of doing it. Why is it not the right way of doing it? Because I might have a different configuration on my local machine. And when I build it, I might build it in a different configuration. The same configuration might not be supported in a user machine, right? All these things comes into picture. So you have the code, you have all this code entirely here. This is all your full code and etc. And in order to make sure that I differentiate something, I'll just say views, home, and here index.html. And here what I'll do is that I'll just change something. I'll just say this is C. It's telling ASP.NET Full Framework and etc. I'll just say okay, fine. I'll just take everything out here, and I'm just saying this is my sample application version 1. I'm just changing, that's it. I'm just changing, I'm just making a simple change out here, telling that this is a sample application, this is version 1. I'm just putting it out there, that's it. Just to make sure this is my application that I'm working on. Just saying save. Now the developer is done working with the code. Now what should be the next step, guys? Build. But I'm not doing a build here, because build, release, all these processes should be done using Azure DevOps. Developers are not allowed to build here. Commit, exactly. I want to now take all this code and I want to commit it into my Azure repository. I want the DevOps team to make sure to look into all these procedures. So I'll do here is I'll do a right click and I'll say open file in folder explorer wherever this file is there. And this is all the file. This is all the folder structure. Like this is everything inside that folder. .NET full framework, and it has a solution file and etc. What I want to do is I'll just copy this folder, okay? Whatever folder that I created in my repository, I'm copying my folder. I am going into the repository path. This is where the readme file was. I'll just paste it here. Okay. So let's give it a second. And I'm pasting all my code. I've built a code. Sorry, I have like written a code, not built. I'm pasting all my code inside this particular repository. And as and when I come here, it's saying I have somewhere around 288 changes that are ready to be committed. Somewhere around what? 288 changes that are ready to be committed. And guys, do you see what is the branch I'm working on? It's a main branch. But can I commit directly on the main branch? I cannot, because there are policies on top of it. I should not. So what I'll do here is that I'll say, okay, fine. I'll see what are all the branches here. I also have a develop branch. I am not even supposed to commit directly on the develop branch also. I'll say create a new branch. And I'll say this is a feature hyphen 100. This is my change, or this is the work item number that I'm working on, 100. I'll say enter. And now do you see the checkout branch has become what? Feature 100. Now I am working on what? A feature branch right now. So what I'll do is I'll go to those changes here and I'll say firstly stage my changes. Before I commit my changes, I need to stage all my changes. Now this is where things come into picture, is that if let's say the developer has somewhere around 10,000 files, he's only worked till 5,000 files. He said, okay, fine, there are a few files that I don't want to commit. He can also go ahead and stage individual files here. It says stage changes. Just on individual files also we can change and commit it out. But for me, I am like done with the entire code. I'm like staging everything. So I'm just clicking on stage all. I'm not clicking on individual files, and I'm saying stage all here, and I'll enter something known as a commit message. So let's give it a second and let's stage all my changes right now. And all these changes are staged. It says AAA. It's staged. Now I'll say, okay, fine. This is a full code push. I'll say what? So I'll say commit. So I'm committing my changes to the local machine. I am not committing the changes to, let's say, the branch yet. I'm just committing my changes to the local machine. Now I'll say publish change. Now it says, okay, fine. I'm publishing all these changes, and you see the circle rotating in the bottom right. This is publishing all those changes there. So let's give it a second so that the changes can get published, and the changes are published right now. And what I'll do right now to check whether the changes are published or not, go to the Azure repository. I'll come down to branches. I have a what? Feature 100 branch here. And the feature 100 branch consists of all the code. Whatever code was there, it consists of the code. Now what is the next thing that I need to do, guys? Anyone? Okay, I already pushed. Merge. How do I merge? Pull request. So I create a pull request. I'll say create a pull request from feature 100 into what? Main or what? Develop. It's not main, it is develop 100, or let's say develop version 1.0, because this is my main branch right now. And I also need to link a work item here, right? So I'll say, I'll just select an existing work item and I'll say, okay, fine, create. Now it says what? Contributor must approve. You have a reviewer known as contributor. He was a mandatory reviewer there, right? He was the main reviewer there. Contributor is the main reviewer. There are no much conflicts, and there are two checks here, which is called what? Work items must be linked. So comments must be resolved. There are no comments, there are nothing. Now is the time where my lead comes into picture. Now let's switch on to the other account. Let's give it a refresh. And this particular person would have already received an email onto this particular ID out here. This is a full code push. It's waiting for this particular approval. If it were your Outlook account, right? Azure DevOps would have pushed the Outlook, pushed it to your Outlook account, to your Office account. Meaning whichever account you give, Gmail, Outlook, whatever it is, it'll push the notification to that particular account. And I'm saying, okay, fine, this particular person has created a new pull request. Please review it. I can either click on view pull request here. It'll take me to the pull request page. Same page what I'm seeing, but right now I'm seeing this as what? As an approver. Now the lead can come here, check what are the changes. All these changes are in there, in place, and say approve. Done. Now I'll come back as a developer again, different screen. The reviewer has approved it. I'll say complete. And I'll delete my feature 100 branch after merging this out, because I no longer need this branch. And I'll say complete merge. Now as and when I complete the merge, it will say merging the pull request. It will wait for a minute. I'll go ahead and complete the merge. And once I come back to my branches here, I go into the develop branch. I have what? The code getting reflected out here. Okay. Any questions still here, guys? So what is the procedure? What do we do it? How do we do it? And etc. So yesterday we made sure that we cover the theory of it. Now let's use that theory in order to make sure how do we practically do it. Any questions still here? Anyone? Anything? Anyone, guys? Online, offline? Any questions? Okay. The code is coming right now. What should be the next step? Anyone? Any guesses? Okay. Release. Okay. But this is a raw code. It's a build. Meaning I have not built my code yet. It's still in a raw format. I don't see DLLs. I don't see anything as such. It should be what? A build of the code, right? How do I build the code? Is by using something known as pipelines. Okay. This is where our work begins. Now we started as a DevOps engineer. I initially started with creating what? A repository. Protected that repository. I let the developer commit the code. After then, now the developer tells, okay, fine, you know what? I have committed the code. I want artifact from this code. This is what I'm talking about. Code is committed. I want a continuous integration pipeline of this code. So let's do one thing. Let's say pipelines. Let's go into pipelines. It says you are new to this project. I don't see any pipelines here. Create a new pipeline. I'll say yes, create a new pipeline. And there are two options right now. One is building the pipeline in something known as YAML language. It's a language where you can build your pipelines in. Now, most of the industry is getting inclined towards YAML. Like there is a lot of shift towards YAML. But even before going there, we will see something known as a classic editor. One of the easiest to start with, so that you will understand what we are doing out here. I'll say classic editor. And now it's telling you, okay, I understand you want to build your code. Can you tell me where your code is? Because you need to define a source of your code, right? It's telling, okay, fine. I have a couple of options like Azure Repos Git, meaning something like Azure repository that you have your code in. Or let's say if you have your code somewhere like in GitHub, or you also have something known as GitHub Enterprise Subversion, Bitbucket, other Git, and etc. Meaning it supports a lot of things. But in my case, where is my code? Azure Repos Git. Is the repository right? Is the branch right? No, right? What is the branch of my development? It's a develop branch. I'll say it is not main, it is develop branch where my code is. I'll say continue. Now it is telling me, okay, fine. What do you want to develop? What we are using right now, guys? It's an what? ASP.NET full framework. I will say it's an ASP.NET web application that I'm trying to build. Please give me a build pipeline, and it gave you something known as a build pipeline. This is your entire build pipeline, what you will be using going forward. Let's understand each and every step here. Let's see what is the steps here, what does it talk about, and etc. The very first thing is the name of your pipeline. Like your pipelines will have a name, right? The very first thing is the name of your pipeline. I can say this is first pipeline full framework. Whenever I edit here, pipeline name in the top is also getting edited. Okay, this is the name of your pipeline. Now, one question that I'd like to ask y'all guys is that why are you using this pipeline? Build. To build the code. Meaning, what is again the build process? Converting the code from a high level language to a low level language that the server can understand. That's what the build process really is about. For me, in order to build using my local system, let's say I give the code to any one of y'all. You do not have a computer. Firstly, you don't have a computer. Can you build the code? No, you cannot do it. Let's say I give you a computer, but there is no Visual Studio, there is no .NET, nothing inside the computer. Can you build the code? You cannot do that. Meaning, I need an infrastructure to build my code. I need an operating system which can basically have a software like Visual Studio, which can understand the code and build the code. So what all we need to build a code right now? We establish that, okay, fine. So we establish something like what? We need a laptop or a computer. I'll say a computer. You need a computer. You need something like a software installed on that computer. Something like what? Visual Studio. And you need some kind of an infrastructure. The computer will come with RAM, hard drive, and all that stuff. You need these two things in order to build the code. But when you are building the code on the cloud, right now you're using a DevOps practice. You're saying, okay, fine, please DevOps, go ahead and build me the code. Even the cloud should have a computer and the Visual Studio installed on top of it. It should be some mechanism, right? That is where something known as an agent comes into picture. Very, very, very important concept called agent pool. It's saying, I understand you're creating a pipeline. And in order to create a pipeline, you will need something. You will need an infrastructure and something on top of that infrastructure in order to build your code. can you tell me what kind of an agent will you be using? There are two kinds of agent, guys. Okay, please listen to me very carefully. There are two kinds of agents. One is called Azure hosted or Microsoft hosted agent. The other is called self-hosted agent. Microsoft hosted agent are given by Microsoft by default, free in nature. That's the reason the first day when we started DevOps, I asked you all to fill a form, right? This is for the agent. This is for Microsoft to give you an agent. Because now, if I now ask you to fill a form, it will take another 3 days for you to practice this. That's the reason I started on Friday and I said, okay, fine, please go ahead and fill this form out. So that while you come to this class, you'll already have agents out there. It's now telling me, okay, fine. Can you select what is the agent type? Either Microsoft hosted or self-hosted. Self-hosted meaning you have to create the agent. Where you will create the agent? Azure. How do you create the agent? Virtual machine. This is where virtual machine service is coming into picture right now. You will create a machine on the cloud and you will use that machine as an agent. If you are doing that, you have to maintain that agent. You have to update it. It's an IaaS service, infrastructure as a service. Whereas if you go here, right, using something known as Microsoft hosted agent, Azure is or Microsoft is going to give you that agent and it'll tell you, okay, fine. This is a SaaS service, software as a service. I'm giving you the software, whatever backend updates, everything I'm taking care of it. This is where you select it. It's saying, okay, fine, Azure pipelines or default. So hosted and private. Self-hosted are also known as private agents. For now, I'm selecting Azure pipeline agents. It's a self-hosted agents. And I'm now saying it is Windows 2019. I'm now telling Microsoft that, you know what? I need a Windows operating system and a Visual Studio 2019 server installed on that. Same way that I'm using, it's a Windows system 2019 server. Same way I'm telling Microsoft that please go ahead and give me an agent specification of, let's say, Windows 2019, which is the latest version. You can also select multiple agents out here based upon your workload. Let's say you are building a code for Macintosh operating system. You can use Mac OS. Let's say you are building something like Ubuntu. You can use Ubuntu latest. In my case, I am using something like Windows, right? I can select Windows latest. Or you can also select VS 2017 Win 2016, meaning give me a Windows Server 2016 with VS Visual Studio 2017 installed on top of it. I'll say, okay, fine, whatever is the Windows latest, like right now I'm just taking it is 2019 server right now. Good until here, guys. Any questions till here? Anyone, any questions? Anything, guys, anything till here? All good? Now, I will also have to specify that, you know what? Okay, agent, I am telling that, okay, fine, Azure. This is the agent specification. I also need to tell which file am I building. If I go into, let's say, Visual Studio, I'll say, okay, fine, this is the file. Click and say build solution. Meaning in this solution, whatever projects are there will get built. In the same way, I have to tell it that, okay, fine, where is my solution here? This is telling me what is the project that you want to build right now. I'm telling, okay, fine. I'll say path. This is the repository inside which I have what? A .sln file. I'll say, okay, this is the solution what I want you to build. I'm saying, please build this solution out. And finally, you have to store what? At the end of the day, you'll get something what? Artifact, right? You have to store this artifact somewhere. And here on Azure, meaning on Azure DevOps itself, not on the Azure Cloud Platform, on the Azure DevOps, I am making a folder called as drop and I'm saving all this artifact into the drop folder. This is what I'm telling. This folder name can be different. It can be XYZ, anything. I'm just making a folder in Azure DevOps and I'm storing my artifacts here. Okay, good till here, guys. Any questions, guys? Anyone online, offline? Any questions? Any questions, guys? Okay, so moving forward, this is the first option. I'm here. Something known as what? Pipeline. I'm giving something known as what? Build pipeline. After this is done, then I have something known as what? Get sources. So let's click on this and let's see what it talks about. The same thing what it's talking while you started. When you started, it is telling this is the code, this is the branch, and etc. This is the same thing. Then you have a couple of options like clean and etc. Let's see what clean is, but clean here is not like really important. We'll see clean when we talk about something known as a self-hosted agent. Okay. So get sources, again, it's telling you, okay, fine, you can also change the branch here. You can change the branch to main and everything. But my code is all in what? In develop branch. Then it says agent job. It says, okay, fine, you have an agent. That particular agent is being inherited from the pipeline. Meaning whatever that you selected here will be the agent here also, which is Windows 2019. And execution plan and all, let's keep it aside right now. Right now, I'll say this agent is doing what? Building the code, right? I'll say building the code. I'm saying, okay, file, please build a code for me. Now is where something known as steps start coming into picture. This is called a stage. This is called what? Stage. In this stage, I'm doing what? I'm building my code, inside which I have the actual job. The job here is to do what? Build the code. That job has something known as tasks, which are pieces which will help me build the code. These are all the things that I'm doing right now. And I'm saying okay. And one thing, guys, is that it's a ASP.NET full framework. Okay. And did we talk about dependency restoration, etc.? I believe we did. Right? We talked about dependency restoration like very long ago. Let me recap that. So you have something known as an ASP.NET that you have developed from the local machine, right? This ASP.NET code is making references to something known as dependencies. Meaning what exactly are dependencies again? Sorry, SDK is a software development kit. Now dependencies are, let's take this as example. You are a developer, you're writing the code. You wrote a code in something known as ASP.NET Full Framework. This code does one thing. It is giving you a newspaper website. This is, let's say, a code for a newspaper website. This newspaper website is being published in various geographic regions like Spain, like America, and etc. And you might have noticed that whenever you are landing onto something like a different language than English, when you are coming from India, it will tell you the language is different. Do you want me to convert it? Right? You would have seen all these are called plugins. Whatever the site needs are called plugins. Meaning, I also want my newspaper website code to behave like that. Like if someone from US lands in Spain, I want them to give a notification telling that okay, fine, you are in a different language. Do you want me to convert it? I can either write the logic here. You can either write the entire logic for conversion, or this is called plugin, right? So I can write the entire plugin, or I can use the plugins that are already available in the internet. Two things that I can do: either write the plugin or use that which is already there on the internet. Which is easier? Something which is there on the internet, I can take it, and those plugins or those dependencies, meaning your code is dependent upon this plugin to work, right? These are known as external dependencies, and I will download all those dependencies from something called NuGet.org. This is a place where I can go ahead and download something known as dependencies and etc. So what I am doing ideally is I am referring my code to this dependency. So whenever I am doing something known as restoration, before build, I want to restore all these dependencies firstly. I want to download all these dependencies and make it available for the build process. In order to restore these dependencies, I'm using something known as a NuGet tool installer and NuGet tool restorer. Two steps. I'm saying this is an ASP.NET code. It's a full framework code. And in order for this to restore the dependencies, it will need something known as NuGet.exe. It's a file. It's a NuGet.exe, which is a tool, or which is, let's say, an installer, or let's say a software which will help my code download all these dependencies out here. Okay. So in order to make sure that I have this particular NuGet, I am doing a NuGet tool installer. What is the whatever is the latest version? I'm saying please go to, let's say, the NuGet website. Go into the download section of the NuGet website. Download something known as NuGet.exe, and one specific version of the NuGet.exe, something like 4.4.1, which is stable somewhere here. Let's see, 4.4.1. It'll be somewhere there. So I'm telling, please go ahead and download this tool. Where am I asking it to download the tool? Where is the tool getting downloaded? On my machine, Azure DevOps on the agent machine. I'm asking it to say, please download it on the agent machine out here. Then do a .NET, or then do a NuGet restoration. Please go into something called NuGet.org and download all the packages or download all the dependencies. This step or this procedure is known as dependency restoration. Okay. Firstly, I am restoring my dependencies. Secondly, I am doing what? Building my solution. I am saying, okay, fine, you have restored the dependencies. Great. Go to something known as a build a solution. And I'm saying this is the solution, and there are something known as arguments. So I'll talk about what the arguments are and etc. And finally, I have something known as test assemblies. In case you have, or if let's say your QA has written a test case, you can include it here and test your code as and when it is getting built. That's where we come to a DevOps practice of continuous building and continuous testing. For now, I do not have a test case, so I'll just remove it. So I'm just doing a right click. I'm saying remove selected task, and this is also not required. I'm saying remove the selected task. Finally, I have something known as publish artifact. I am saying whatever that you build and restore till here, it's all what now DLL. I want to take this DLL and I want to place it into the drop folder, right? I said you have something known as a drop folder that is getting created on the cloud. Place it inside the drop folder. This drop folder is also called build.artifact staging directory. It's a directory which will stage all your artifacts. And I'll say the drop location is in Azure pipelines. Please drop it here only. And finally, after this entire thing is done, I'll say save and queue. I'll say save and run. This is the first time I am running my pipeline. And it will now tell, okay, fine. The pipeline is now triggered. It will first say, okay, fine. I am waiting for an agent, meaning I am waiting for Microsoft to give me an agent. because without this machine I won't be able to build my code, right? So it is waiting for an agent and it's saying the current queue position is 1. I'm waiting for this agent to get built and it will wait for some time and it will do a code build. Now at this point it will take some time. The reason being I have something else running in the backend. I have something else like running in the backend. I have a scheduled pipeline which is running in the backend. This is going to take some time. Now what I want you all to do is trigger this out, see what is the workflow of it, see what are the steps that are getting executed, and tell me what you observe from it. Okay, guys, any questions that I can take till here? Anything? Is this clear, guys? Is it confusing? Is it okay? Any questions, guys? Any questions till here? Now I will make sure that every day when we start the class, we'll first revise what has happened yesterday, and then we'll proceed what will basically we are taking today. This is something that we'll do for about 4 or 5 days until you have a mindset of DevOps. This is what is important. Now all of a sudden now we are shifting from Azure to DevOps, right? So till now we have done something like something like in a right direction. Now we are doing it in a left direction. So it's a bit what do you say, confusing to follow at beginning. But once you start understanding the sessions, this is the best thing that you'll be learning, because DevOps practice is something that we are here to learn, right? This is the topic what we are here to learn. So my request is please ask as many as questions that you want. Even if it's a very silly question, it's okay. Please do ask it, because this is important, guys. Okay, guys, please do this procedure today. Whatever we did, taking a code, putting it into the repository, building a build pipeline or creating a build pipeline, please do that, and please trigger the build pipeline and let me know what you see there. Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, we can close the session, guys. Agent pool, right? So let's do that. So I'm here. So I told that in order to build the code, I need an infrastructure, right? I need something like a computer and a Visual Studio installed on top of it. That is where a concept called agent comes into picture. Agent is nothing but a virtual machine that is running in the backend. Now, who is creating the virtual machine? Do you want to create it and manage it? If yes, it is called a self-hosted pool or a private agent pool. If no, I don't want to take all that headache. It's known as an Azure pipeline agent. Okay, this is what agent pool really matters. Okay, any more questions here, guys? So please try this out and let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Okay, guys, thank you.